It's either you want to interview yourself or you want to interview.
Hello and welcome. Thank you for staying with us. I'm Jabari Fraser. This is a current affair. Remember, you can send us your comments and suggestions on Twitter at 6TNT or at Jabari Fraser. Don't forget to use the hashtag a current affair. This season, there has been a new element in the general election, the Council for Responsible Political Behavior. What has it done? Have we seen any of the politicians clean up their act to behave and not sling mud at each other? Have the supporters been heeding the call of the leaders to behave, not to attack people who they perceive to be anti-government at meetings, walkabouts or online? Failure to seek any campaign finance restrictions, failure to debate must certainly be considered in how the parties have performed this season, all of which must be considered, and especially when we think about whether or not there should be sanctions for the political parties. The major political parties all signed onto this code, which has strict positions on all forms of deviant political behavior. Here to talk about the impact of the code on the playing field is Chair of the Council, Dr. Bishnu Raghunath. Dr. Raghunath, thank you for being here.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Has the code had any impact this election season in your mind?
Definitely we have had impact. We have had some positive impact in that both the politicians and the citizenry at large have taken us seriously to some extent.
Mm-hmm.
To some extent. And we know that we have only started in March of this year, so we started off very, very, very cautiously, not being aware of when the election date would have been called. So it was just simply playing the waiting game as everybody else.
Did that impact on the council's preparations?
Well, clearly we got some additional time, but it was not a matter that there was need for preparations. What there was a matter of we needed time to get at was simply to get the message out. And I think as we come down to the end of the season, we have gotten the message out to a lot of people, and we've gotten some of the politicians to actually accept where we have cited them and make their corrections to their behavior.
You've got some of the politicians, you say, to listen to where you've cited them and make corrections to the behavior. What proof is there of that making corrections to their behavior?
Okay. There have been several instances where we actually cited politicians. And in two instances, I could tell you of two instances where actually the politicians have said on the platform that they will make sure that their presentations on the platform on those particular, after being cited, remain clean, and it did. And we've had evidence.
Who are those two politicians?
I mean, I could tell you, for instance, Dr. Rudal Munilal, and in fact, nearly on every occasion since Dr. Munilal was cited, nearly on every occasion he goes back on the platform, and before he prefaces his presentation by saying, I will make sure that I stay clean and not be...
But he commits a different offense every time?
Well, no. Well, he has not always been committing offenses. And so from the UNC side, the People's Partnership, we could talk about Dr. Munilal, and we have cited, for instance, Mr. Hines from the PNM. Yeah. And what we probably would like to note is that apart from what we would have told them, and apart from those who we have publicly cited, we would have literally sent messages, if that's the correct word, through their representatives who sit on the council to the other errand speakers on the platform. And there too we have had evidence where we have seen at least a toning down, if not.
Would you say that the council has been a bit slow in its deliberations, or is there anything that can be done to improve the speed? Say a perceived infraction of the code takes place, could it be judged the next day, for example?
No, that is a problem. And you see, what we have been doing is that we've been meeting fortnightly. The fortunate thing, or the unfortunate thing, is that people we may have sent in a complaint and they may not hear about it until the next meeting that we have, and it's 2 weeks thereafter, and they think we have not been doing anything. But what we do is, whenever we get a complaint, the first thing we do is that we circulate that complaint to all members of the council, including the representatives from the political parties. And that is important because we have representatives of political parties sitting on the council with us. So they immediately know that this is an infraction, this is a possible infraction. The council may not have deliberated upon it, but at least they could immediately inform their party representatives, look, this is going to come.
A major part of this, leading up to this general election, was that there would be there was the hope in the core that there would be some control of political party financing and campaign financing. Are you disappointed that the council hasn't been able to properly monitor that, or to make the political parties more responsible with their finances?
Okay, the council cannot make the political parties do anything.
Well,
I want to emphasize that.
Council.
I want to emphasize that the council cannot make the political parties do anything.
Persuade them.
Moral suasion is the only tool that we have at our hands and disposals. But what we, in fact, within the code that the parties would have signed, the code document that the parties would have signed, the parties would have given the assurance that with 3 months after the elections, they would try and get audited figures, including an audit of their contributors and their donors to their parties. Now, whether that will happen or not, I cannot see. I mean, that's down the road. Right. For the time being, however, what we could say is that we never had that power to force anything. In fact, I tell people, I jokingly tell people, I have always been a toothless bulldog. Mm-hmm. That all I could say is...
So why should the council continue then?
Why the council is continuing is simply this. We have seen at least some positive developments. 1, 2. We know that we cannot change a culture that has developed over 50-odd years. For instance, Pekong, what we hear on the platform. And some people, when they hear the Pekong, which could easily be termed mudslinging, if I may use it like that, there's the jeering and the happiness and egging on the speakers to say more. That is part of our culture. Now, what we have to do is try and change that culture too. And we are in the process of changing that. And that's why, for instance, when we tell people, okay, fine, you know, you've crossed the line, let us make sure that in future you don't cross the line. And what we've seen is that in some instances, people have actually listened to us, and that is all that we could do. We take it one step at a time.
Thank you very much, Dr. Aganath. We're going to take a quick break. Remember that we're going to read some of your questions and comments on Twitter this evening. Send us those questions and comments at TV6TNT and at Jabari Fraser. Stay tuned for the answers.
What is Apex? It is the pinnacle of high-performance vision. It is clarity, no matter what angle you look at. It is comfort for every vision, all day, every day. And it's customized with every digital measurement your eyes require to see at their very best. Apex, the ultimate lens designed for your eyes. Only at Value Optical, caring for your eyes.
서은기, 잘 기억해. 이번엔 절대 잊어버리지 말고 잘 기억해. 이게 내 첫 키스야.
Like what you see? Well, you can catch more of The Innocent Man tomorrow at 2:30 p.m. in the TV6 soap block. It's Let's Talk Tobago, the TV magazine program that's all about Tobago. See it Wednesdays at 10:35 p.m. here on TV6.
It's called integrity because it's, sort of about me,
Remove headphones and avoid using cellular phones while crossing the road.
Pay attention when you're crossing the road, man.
Thank you for staying with us. Welcome back, Dr. Raghunath, on set of the Code for, talking about the Code for Responsible Political Behavior. Dr. Raghunath, how can you improve the code from here on? What sort of agreement do you think might be possible in terms of putting sanctions in place for the parties that offend?
Bear in mind that this code was not developed by any public body. It was developed by a series of civil society organizations coming together who thought it necessary that our campaign had gone to a low that they wanted to raise the entire system. Having said that, once we moved, once the civil society organizations developed the code, what they did was they invited the political parties. Here's a draft of a code. Tell me, would you sign on to this? So far, 7 parties have signed on to the code. And that is what it was critical to us, that the parties have actually read the code, agreed to it, and signed on to it. Because we have no legal backing to the code, but rather it is a simple contract between the parties and the civil society organizations and the citizenry at large. What we are hoping for is that as we go into the future, the state, and more importantly, at our launch, the Elections and Boundaries Commission chairman had stated that we have taken a step, that this step should be brought into law, and only then can sanctions be imposed.
And are you confident that that could possibly happen at any point?
I am confident that it could happen, because I am confident that the Elections and Boundaries Commission, their legislation needs to be updated. And if they could get part of this updated into their legislation, well, then we have gone a long way into the process. Well, when that happens, however, I am assuming that this council that I am currently sitting on, which is a non-governmental organization at this point in time, may have to go out of business and let a state agency take care of it.
We wait and hope to see if the EBC can do anything there to help out the council. We have a caller from San Fernando on the line. Good evening, caller. Do you have a question for Dr. Raghunath on the code?
Yes, good night, Jabari. Good night, Dr. Raghunath.
Good night.
I would like to find out, tonight on the TV news, Dr. Fuad Khan was interviewed, and he said while being interviewed by the press that Gypsy could do whatever the hell he wants. That behavior, though not on the political platform, I would like to know if it is observed by your organization and if it is in breach of the political code of conduct. Thank you very much.
Well, caller, remember that the council has to sit and deliberate. But Dr. Raghunath, I don't know if you want to tackle anything that the caller said there.
Well, all I could say is that simply what we had done is simply whenever members of the public heard statements like these or have seen things like these, please send a written complaint to the council, because you see, we cannot see and hear everything. Unfortunately, it's only 11 of us who sit on the council, 5 of whom are represented from political parties, and the political parties won't necessarily come and complain about their own parties. So effectively, we are hoping, and that's why we invited the citizenry and the public at large to send us their complaints. We will then evaluate those things.
I know, before we take the caller from Shogunas, I know that the code has provisions to deal with the supporters of political parties. Are you satisfied that the council has been able to properly examine the behavior of the supporters and have the political parties suggest to their supporters, keep it cool?
Well, we have had several complaints about supporters of political parties, and on each and every occasion we would have contacted or communicated with the leadership of the political parties, and through their representative on the council actually let the leadership know that the council has frowned on such behavior. But for all intents and purposes, it is for the leadership to communicate the message to their membership, one. But whether or not the ability to control membership, I know that has always been a challenge, not only for us here in Trinidad and Tobago, but throughout the world, when the membership of a party may very well decide they will do whatever they want to do.
Do we still have that caller from Shogunas on the line? If you're there, caller, please go ahead and ask Dr. Raghunath a question.
Mr. Fraser, Dr. Raghunath, I have really and truly been aghast by the level of charges of corruption leveled against this government on the political platform. the opposition have leveled several charges and instances of corruption against the government.
Caller,
Yes,
I just want to
it
remind you to
would
keep
seem me-
the question on point and on target for Dr. Raghunath above the code and the council,
Yes, it
right?
would seem to me. Yes, it would seem to me that the government has chosen not to respond, and I'm wondering how does the code affect us in a way like this? Because I would like to hear their response to these several serious charges of corruption. Their response is absolutely no response, and I'm wondering.
All right, caller. We want you to remember that there needs to be a complaint, and there needs to be a complaint made to the council, and Dr. Raghunath is here to talk about things that relate to the council. But maybe we could take the caller from Tunapuna. We have a caller from Tunapuna on the line, and we'll hear what that caller's question is. Caller, we ask you to lower your TV, please. Listen to us on the phone, not on the television. Are you still there?
Okay, yes, I'm here from Tunapuna.
Go ahead.
I want to ask Dr. Raghunath, if a politician goes on platform and speak a lot of untruth, what it is the ethics committee is doing about that?
Dr.
Thank you very much.
Well, first of all, we have to make sure that they're speaking whether what they're saying is true or not.
Well, right.
Right.
Should
I mean, I cannot judge, and I cannot say. In fact, the caller previously said a lot of allegations of corruption are made. People make allegations all the time. People go on platforms and say all sorts of things.
But should the council then have some sort of body that seeks to look at facts and determine whether or not statements made on the platform have any truth to them, and that could help in the deliberations?
Now, that may be one of the ways in which we will have to improve the code, because for all intents and purposes, we get our power from the code. And if the code does not allow for us to give that sort of scrutiny, we will not be able to do that.
All right, we have a caller from Pity Valley on the line. Caller, good evening. Ask Dr. Raghunath your question, please.
Hi.
Go ahead.
Hi.
Good evening, guys. Dr. Raghunath, could you say how we can get in touch with the council, email or address or otherwise, if we need to complain about something?
That sounds as if that caller from Pity Valley has a complaint to make, Dr. Raghunath.
Definitely. And all you do is simply send an email to info@politicalethicst.org. info@politicalethicst, one word, .org, and we will take your complaint.
Okay, we have a caller from San Fernando on the line. Good evening, caller. Do you have a question for Dr. Raghunath?
Yes. I'd like to find out from the doctor if they are looking at, other than being on the platform, but the general behavior of politicians. Now, we have seen in the past where you can tell if someone seems to be intoxicated or things like that in public, holding office. Those sort of things. Are you all looking at those sort of things?
No, caller, remember that complaints need to be made. But Dr. Raghunath, you have any response there?
Well, in that particular instance, yes, we will look at it, but again, we have to have a complaint, one, and it's the code of ethical political conduct literally gives us that leeway to look at what is happening in a campaign, even long before the campaign has started. So we may not necessarily have to look at somebody while they are in government per se, but once we start talking campaigning in time for an election, that is where we have to be ready.
Should the council make that next step then, because for example, the police don't need a complaint to go and stop a crime from taking place. They can go based on what they see. Should the council move to that next step of being the judge, the enforcer of good behavior?
Again, we cannot enforce anything.
I know.
All we're doing is simply,
I'm asking if you think the council should go there.
I would really think that if there laws were put in place, and that would give the council that sort of responsibility, yes, I would think so. For the time being, however, we do not have any laws in place. All we are simply holding the parties to is their goodwill, having signed on to the code, that they are willing to abide by what they have signed to.
All right, now we have a caller from Woodbrook on the line. Good evening, caller. Ask your question, please. We seem to have lost that caller. Dr. Raghunath, this is the week before the election. Do you expect an influx of complaints from the nation?
I expect some complaints to come into to the fore. I'm not sure how many we will get.
So you think the battle will get dirtier?
I am thinking that the battle will get dirtier. From what I've heard some parts of yesterday and today, I'm expecting people to start complaining and saying this was said and that was said and so forth. However, if there are no complaints, all we are asking the parties to do is to restrain yourself. Bear in mind that you have signed a code of ethical political conduct. 1. 2, that if you breach that code, it is not necessarily for we, the council, to judge you, but rather it is for the citizenry at large, the electorate, who will be judging you, because the electorate has that final responsibility to know. If you have signed onto a code and you have agreed to accept all of these conditionalities, and you are breaching them now, even before the election, what will you do after an election? So again, the electorate becomes the final arbiter,
the final judge. Right. We have a caller from St. James on the line. Good evening, caller. Go ahead.
Dr. Raghunath, the day that you all launched, I actually submitted about 3 complaints. However, I got no response. How do we know that this board is actually working for the public?
Okay, I'll tell you what happened literally. When we were launched, immediately thereupon, we had about 20 or 20 plus complaints coming to us. Some of which, however, were not fallen within the purview of the code. We could only operate upon the mandate which was given to us by the Code of Ethical Political Conduct. We cannot go outside of that. So that's one thing. Secondly, we've had several people who would have written. Some, in fact, I have had one complainant who has been writing to us nearly every meeting and lodging complaints. And we've been dealing with some of them, and some of them where we think that the complaint was significant and serious enough, we would have issued a media release to signal those issues.
Does the council have sufficient manpower to deal with the number of complaints coming in?
To be honest with you, we meet once every other week. We meet for 2 hours, sometimes 3 hours.
Have there been any fights in the meetings, any disagreements?
Definitely not. And this is one thing I want to congratulate all the political parties for. The representatives of all the political parties came in there mature enough so that if there's a complaint against their party, even sometimes, believe it or not, some of those representatives are the ones who lead off in saying, look, my party was wrong. So that is the good part of it. The other part of it, however, is simply that we were not able to deal with all of those complaints depending on the nature of the complaint. Some of which, I mean, if it's a police matter, we're not going to deal with that. If it doesn't fall within the Code of Ethical Political Conduct, we cannot deal with it. So we have not dealt with a lot of complaints that came to us which were not necessarily falling under our purview. What we've dealt with, and in fact on a fortnightly basis, we've been dealing with about between 3 and 5 complaints on a fortnightly basis. And I think that is good. At least what we know is that people have accepted that we are outside there, we are actually dealing with some of these complaints. They may not see a response all the time. In many instances, when we have deliberated on a matter, we will respond to the complainant and the person who has been found to have breached the code. But if the complainant, if you didn't get an acknowledgement to the complaint, then we may have had a problem.
Dr. Raghunath, we have to take a very quick break. We are quickly running out of time, but we're going to take a quick break and come back. Have one final question for Dr. Raghunath. This is a current affair.
Timelines are wrong. Forward.
What is Apex? It is the pinnacle of high-performance vision. It is clarity, no matter what angle you look at. It is comfort for every vision, all day, every day. And it's customized with every digital measurement your eyes require to see at their very best. Apex, the ultimate lens designed for your eyes. Only at Value Optical, caring for your eyes.
Sellers say you don't even need any special knowledge to run a zoo. What you need is a lot of heart.
You are gonna love your new enclosure. We need somebody who can take charge of this place, or else we and all these animals are gone.
I'm trying to give the kids an authentic American experience.
Stop before zebras get involved.
There's 2 zebras. There's a lion. There's 47 animal species.
You can catch the endearing family comedy We Bought a Zoo tonight at 8:30 on TV6.
I think he has his timelines a little wrong.
Good evening, welcome back to our Current Affair. We have a caller from Woodbrook who's been very patient, waiting before the break. Good evening, caller, go ahead.
Good evening.
Go ahead, ask your question, please, caller.
Okay, I'm asking, are you saying that you're going to... Hello?
Yes, go ahead, please, caller, we're listening.
I'm asking the question, is it that you want to cut out or let them remove peacock? Peacock is part of the Trinidadian way. Is it that peacock is going to be censored, or if peacock is not going to happen on the platform? Because if that is it, it will be very boring campaign.
Dr. Raghunath?
I agree with you. And you see, and that is part of our challenge. When we get complaints, the first thing we have to do is assess how much of this is peacock and how much of this crosses the line.
Right.
And it is at that point when we decide this is beyond peacock and it has crossed the line, then we'll go and say, okay, fine. We have to kind of incite people for this.
We have about 90 seconds left, but I'm going to squeeze in a quick question. Main part of the code was that there should be at least 2 national debates between or among the political parties. Are you disappointed that the leaders' debate has not come out?
I am disappointed. I am surely disappointed, sorely disappointed that we did not have a debate. I thought we would have had one. And in fact, when we did not have one on the national media, I was hoping that we'd have had one in another
Should any particular party be blamed for that?
I'm not going to blame parties at this point in time. I'm not going to fall to my own code.
Right.
But I was hoping that at least we would have had a debate to the extent that where we would have had the leaders come and say what they were presented to the citizenry.
Thank you very much, Dr. Raghunath. That's all the time we have had for this week. We want to say thank you, Dr. Raghunath, for coming on this Sunday evening to contribute to the program. And of course, thank you to the viewers and callers for contributing this evening. We had a little bit of trouble with our social media feed. This is the last show in the lead up to the general election. We've had a good exchange on different programs, some hot interviews, some good information coming out. Thanks to all of those who made this show possible nearly every week, especially the producer, Keishan Haynes. Don't forget, this program will be rebroadcast on Tuesday at 9:30. In case you didn't notice, I'm on a new set. This is the premiere of the Push for Power election set on TV6. Remember, throughout this week and of course on the 7th, you can listen out to TV6 and look at TV6 for the most comprehensive election coverage. I'm Jabari Fraser. This is A Current Affair. Good evening.
I think he has his timelines a little wrong.
So what about his timeline?
The following is a paid political broadcast.
From the Hyatt Regency Hotel, the People's National Movement 2015 Manifesto launch.